Howdy everyone, welcome back to Wobble and Jaw Sports. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you're a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. Let's get stuck into week 3 of the 2024 NFL season. The first game of round number 3 is from MetLife Stadium. The New York Jets host the New England Patriots. The Jets find themselves $1.39 favourites, whereas the Patriots sit around that $3.10 mark. That's pretty wild to think about, considering the lack of success in the Jets and the large amount of success for the New England Patriots over the past 15 years or so. And the Patriots have all the wood over the New York Jets, and I really want to tip the Patriots here. I think they are the bogey side. They are well and truly a bogey side for the New York Jets, and New York, they're back in front of their home fans, and they just defeated the Tennessee Titans the other day. They had to come back from a deficit, and so they were involved in another thriller. So I'm mightily tempted to advise that you do tip the New England Patriots, who have been very plucky this year. They've been very tough. It was the Seahawks that only just pipped them in overtime last weekend. But I do got to say that the Jets defense, it is warming up, and Aaron Rodgers himself is warming up as well. So it's good to get the monkey off the back. I'm going to tip the New York Jets in this one, but boy howdy, the Patriots are going to make it seriously tough. Then shifting into the weekend, the Cleveland Browns host the New York Giants. The Giants are about $3.70, whereas the Cleveland Browns, they're sitting around that $1.30 odd mark. The Browns, they went to Jacksonville and picked up the dub. The bounce back factor did come into play. And for the New York Giants, they also had a bit of a bounce back game, but they fell to the Commanders. The Browns, they're back in front of their home fans for the first time since week 1, when they were embarrassed by the Dallas Cowboys. They should repay the faith to the pound. So I'm going to go the Cleveland Browns to win this one, just 1-13. A seriously intriguing matchup here. The New Orleans Saints host the Philadelphia Eagles, and it is the Saints who are the favorites at $1.66. Philadelphia are $2.20 plus. That is sensational value on Philadelphia, but the Saints went to Dallas and put 40 points on the Cowboys last weekend, whereas the Eagles fell to the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football. This is a very intriguing game early on in the season that will shape the future, the playoff hopes for both of these sides, in particularly the New Orleans Saints. But at $2.22, I've got to back Philadelphia here. I'm sorry, Saints, but go New Orleans. Another very interesting game lies ahead as the Vikings host the Texans from US Bank Stadium. This time, the home side are the outsiders at $2.12, whereas the Texans, they sit around that $1.70 mark. The Texans, don't let the scoreline fool you. They really bashed the Bears last weekend, and the Vikings continued this incredible hoodoo they've got against the 49ers in Minnesota by beating San Francisco. Texans, they are pretty much, in my opinion, the third best team in the competition, possibly the second best team. I'm going to have to back the Texans here, but if Vikings win this game, that is a huge declaration by the Vikings, but I've got to go for the Texans here. From Raymond James Stadium, the Bucs host the Denver Broncos, and it is the Broncos who are about $3.75 and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are sitting around that $1.20 range. And I'm kind of shocked, even though Baker Mayfield is a terrific player at quarterback, I'm kind of shocked how well the Bucs have started in 2024. It's taken a few people by surprise, and they went to Detroit and defeated the Lions last weekend, whereas the Broncos hosted the Steelers and they were only able to score 6 points themselves. The Bucs, I'm going to trust that they continue their form here and defeat the Denver Broncos by 14 plus. From Nissan Stadium, Tennessee host the Green Bay Packers. Tennessee are the favourites at $1.74, whereas the Packers sit at around that $2.15 mark. Packers, I tipped them to win last weekend, and young quarterback Malik Willis did come out and get the job done, and he's coming up against his old team down in Tennessee, so there's a bit of spice in this game. Titans, they were up against the New York Jets, and they were up against the Bears, so they have a tendency, at least over the first 2 weeks anyway, to fade out of games. I am going to say that will continue. I think the Green Bay Packers, they just got another point to prove. They proved 1 point last weekend, and now they're going to go on the road. This young quarterback wants a little bit of vengeance after getting shifted, so I'm going to go the Green Bay Packers here in the upset. From Lucas Oil Stadium, the Colts host the Chicago Bears. The Colts are the favourites at $1.82, whereas the Bears are sitting at $2.02. And this is a very important game for both quarterbacks here. Caleb Williams versus Richardson. And the Colts went to Green Bay and lost. The Bears, they went down to the Texans. This is a very important game for both these young quarterbacks. The Bears haven't been disgraceful. They have been a little bit better so far than what they produced last year. The Colts, though, I think just because they're at home, I'm going to give them the win. Just. From Lumen Field, the Seattle Seahawks 2-0 take on the Miami Dolphins, who are 1-1. And it is the Seahawks who come into the game at approximately $1.40 favourites, whereas the Dolphins sit at $2.80. And I gotta be honest, Seattle, they've defeated the Denver Broncos, who last year were a rabble, and they went to New England and they defeated who people thought would be the number 1 draft pick by the end of this year in overtime. So I'm just a little bit hesitant on getting too carried away, because this game against the Dolphins is the toughest game of the season so far for Seattle, in my opinion anyway. They're the best team that this franchise has come up against in season 2024 so far. But credit where credit's due, man. Geno Smith was sensational against the New England Patriots last weekend. And much love to Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. I hope I pronounced that correctly in the end. Dolphins are threatening to have him play. He might play. He might don the helmet this weekend, and I'm not just saying this just in case he plays against us and he's good, and he is, but he should not play this weekend. Just because of my experience in watching rugby league, the NRL, he should not be playing this weekend against Seattle Seahawks, especially after suffering his 4th concussion in 2 seasons or so. So best of luck to him, but obviously I'm getting behind the Seattle Seahawks to get their biggest dub of season 2024 so far and lead the NFC West 3-0 by the end of the weekend. From Allegiant Stadium, the Raiders host the Panthers. Raiders are $1.40. The Panthers are $3. And Las Vegas Raiders, you evil bastards, you sons of bitches, you go to Baltimore and you win. I could not support yous. Lucky I don't. And this legitimately could be a game where they go home and lose against the Panthers, who are not playing their young quarterback, Bryce Young. It's going to be Andy Dalton who will be starting at quarterback this weekend. I swear to God, Raiders, I'm tipping you, but I swear to God, if you lose this game and There's a piece of me that is fearing that you do lose this. I will refuse to just give my tip on you for the rest of the season, but I'm tipping you this weekend. From SoFi Stadium, the Rams host the 49ers in a battle of the NFC West. The Rams, they are outsiders, sitting at over $3, whereas the 49ers sit at approximately $1.28. 49ers going down in wild circumstances to the Vikings in Minnesota. Again, they have not won in that place for 30-odd years, whereas the Rams, they conceded 40 points to the Cardinals last weekend, and they've got a few injuries to contend with. It could be a surprise game for the Rams. They could bounce back into form, but I think the 49ers, they still got too much class, even though it really didn't work for them last weekend. I'm going to tip the 49ers in this game in a close one. Then from Phoenix, Arizona, speaking of the Cardinals, it is Arizona hosting the Detroit Lions, and it is the Lions who are $1.67 favourites, and the Cardinals are $2.20 plus. Gut check time for the Arizona Cardinals. They took the Buffalo Bills all the way to the edge. They scored 28 points. They then scored 41 points against the Rams last weekend. So their attack seems to be firing on all cylinders. The Detroit Lions, they looked shaky to start the year, but they've come up against two pretty good teams. Detroit, they got to get back into form here and bounce back. Otherwise, there's going to be a huge air of concern. But this is a fascinating game. This should be a really fun game. I'm going to go Detroit, but Arizona seem to have the attack. Will they have the consistency? We'll find out this weekend, but go Detroit. Speaking of teams that may not have consistency, Dallas Cowboys host the Baltimore Ravens, and the bookies have got these two split at $1.90 each way. Dallas absolutely getting stomped by the New Orleans Saints, and the Baltimore Ravens going down to, of all teams, the Las Vegas Raiders. How do you pick this game? Both teams aren't too bad in the injury department. I don't know how you pick it. I really don't. I think I'm going to go towards the Dallas Cowboys. They might just have a bit better defense, but watch out for the attack of the Baltimore Ravens. It's a flip of the coin game. It truly is. It might be game of the round as well, but I'm going to go the Dallas Cowboys here at home. From Acrisure Stadium, the Pittsburgh Steelers host the Los Angeles Chargers, and it is the Steelers who are the favourites at $1.80 plus, whereas the Chargers sit at over $2. Chargers, they have defeated the Raiders, and they've defeated the Panthers, so form line is still questionable, and a little bit less so for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They went to Denver and got the dub as well, and they're undefeated so far in 2024. So too are the Chargers. So we're going to get a real reflection, hopefully anyway, on how teams are going. I want to tip the Chargers here. It just feels like a game where you could fall into the trap and say, all right, let's give it to them. But surely there's still going to be a little bit of essence of the Chargers charging it up. But the Steelers, will they have the points to combat the Chargers? It's another 50-50 game in what is turning out to be a very, very 50-50 week in week number 3. Gee whiz, this is tough. I think, I'm going to go the Chargers. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I feel like I'm falling into a trap because the Steelers will just somehow do it. But I'm going to go the Los Angeles Chargers here for the value as well. From Highmark Stadium, the Buffalo Bills host the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Buffalo Bills, they're sitting at approximately $1.40, whereas the Jaguars are just under $3. Jacksonville Jaguars going down to the Browns. It seems like it's their attack that is letting them down so far in 2024, whereas the Buffalo Bills smashed the Dolphins forget the injury to Livoa from the Dolphins. That happened late on in the game, but the Buffalo Bills smashed the Dolphins. So maybe they're not going to be as bad as what I thought they might have been this season. It's a desperate game for the Jaguars, but I'm going to say the Buffalo Bills get the dub. Sunday night football, we've got the Falcons hosting the Chiefs, and it is the home side who are $2.55, and the Chiefs, they're sitting at approximately $1.50. Falcons going to Philadelphia and causing the upset by 1 point, and the Chiefs surprising nobody and winning thanks to the refs. Joke. No, they deserved that win against the Cincinnati Bengals. It was the right call in the end. They only won by 1 point themselves. Are the Chiefs... Is the Chiefs' luck about to run out over the next couple of weeks? Is that first loss of the season coming over the next few rounds? It surely must be. Is it going to be against the Falcons? Oof. There's a piece of me that, there is a piece of me that wants to get right behind Atlanta right now, but I still think that they're a couple of weeks away from really finding their groove, even though they got a pretty big dub against Philly in Philly. I'm going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs here, but I think Falcons are going to give them a hell of a run for their money. And then finally, we round things out with Monday night football, or Tuesday morning football here in Australia. We've got the Bengals, who are sitting at approximately $1.27, whereas the Washington Commanders sit at approximately $3.95. Now, they're on top of their division at the moment are the Washington Commanders, and they only did defeat the New York Giants by a field goal, whereas the Bengals went down by 1 point last weekend against the Kansas City Chiefs. I give the Commanders more of a sniff than $3.95, but I have to go the Bengals here to get their first win of 2024. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope your team gets up this weekend, except for the Miami Dolphins, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you. Take care. Adios.